Greetings, everyone. I'm Mar. Once again, this is my opinion. Who's handsome? This is a very interesting episode because this covers a topic that is bound to come up, even if very, very mildly, in any relationship if you are not an only child on either side. And it's also noticeable because it is the first appearance of a character that was, as the series progressed, slowly promoted from reoccurring guest character to secondary guest character, to where she's a prominent guest character, to mainstay once her character married Robert, and that is Monica Horan, if I'm pronouncing that name correctly, as Amy McDougal. Like with Ray, Monica definitely grew as an actress as the show progressed, and she grew more comfortable with the character. She's a little awkward early on in the first couple seasons, gets a little bit bolder. Near the end, that little awkwardness is still there a little bit, but it's tempered by her familiarity with both the cast and, of course, the audience. Here, though, it definitely works, as both were introduced to her, and she is slowly being introduced to the Barones, which, what we know of them already, it's like pulling off a Band-Aid, but in the slow method, like, And once you get to a point, the episode begins with Amy and Debra sitting at Ray and Debra's kitchen table with cookies, talking. They're catching up. You definitely buy them as old friends. As we find out through dialogue, they used to work together in PR. And Debra obviously left that job once the kids were born, and she became more of a homemaker. Which, it begs the question, is she ever going to go back to work? Wait, that's going to be the topic of a future episode once I get there. I believe that's season 3 as well. They have some nice little back and forth, and it goes instantly to dating, and you can definitely tell right off the bat that Amy, she doesn't like the dating scene. I like her analogy. It's like, I've been in there, I feel like something in a salad bar that's been there too long and nobody's touching it. And cue right after that, who walks in but Robert. He's coming to get the yearly donation for the police force, which not only helps the officers get new gear, but it also provides the K9 unit with crunchy treats, which that wording always gets me smile. It reminds me taking the treats into the K9 unit. Who's a good boy? Who's a good boy? And you could tell right off the bat that Amy is attracted to Robert, but as she asks more questions about him, it's like, oh, he's available. You can tell, like, ooh. They talk, they hit it off, and Robert asks Amy out over the phone. We only find out about it afterwards. And of course, since it's been a year since the divorce, Deborah is very supportive. At first, Ray's like, are we sure you want to go with this? It's kind of hard to tell if he's just being an overprotective younger brother because of what happened. And with what we see in season 4, he was right there when the marriage collapsed. And even if there might be that sibling rivalry between them, it's like, you're always there for your brother. Even if you have some disagreements, if something like that, if someone hurts your brother like that, you're going to be there for them. And if they're going to go out there again, you want to make sure that they're going out there in a good way, not in a way where it's like, put that knife in even further. So Ray being a little apprehensive, you get it. And of course, when Robert shows up, like, I don't know if I want to do this. There's something about this that really does speak to me personally. And that is that Robert's uncomfortable with his appearance, which, being a little about his height, you can understand, especially since he's about 6'8", which, like I've said a couple times, 4 inches taller than me. And I alone already sometimes have had difficulty finding clothes that fit, but that was more when I was over 300 lbs. Now that I've lost the weight, it's a bit easier, though sometimes I still find it hard to find XL shirts that I like, but pants are definitely a lot easier to find. But with Robert being 4 inches taller and, at least in this season, a bit hefty, you can kind of understand why he doesn't like his appearance, even though I do agree with the assessment that the characters do. He is kind of classically handsome, but even then he still has that weird thing, which that ties in with me. I mean, I've been told that I look good, but it's one of those things like, it's that little, to use a phrase that a comedian, Christopher Titus, would use, it's the thing that he christened your inner retard that always is, even if you're feeling good, is always critiquing you. Think of it kind of like a inner version of Deadpool's voices where you're like, oh yeah, I'm feeling good. Oh, you're going to get fired today, idiot. Whereas with Robert, it's probably like, oh yeah, we're on a date. Oh yeah, but she's going to laugh at you, Robert. She's going to laugh at you. She's going to treat you just like Joanne did. You want that? No. Yeah, that's right. You're gonna call it off. We'll go see with Debra. Yeah, she's gonna tell you. She's gonna laugh at you. Of course, Debra peps him up by saying, you're tall, dark, and handsome. And out of all the Barones, and she's about to say she's the most handsome, but a look from Ray gets her to slightly adjust the wording, but she still pumps up Robert, and he goes ahead with the date. And because of this comment, Ray becomes a little, well, I'll say a little in quotations, a little jealous. And I guess you could also say he becomes a little self-conscious. Like as they're talking in dialogue, it's like, yeah, you think he's the handsome one, like it's because of the pores on my large nose, back and forth and all that. You could definitely see that Ray's becoming self-conscious about his own appearance and thinking that Robert's more handsome than him, more attractive than him, better everything than him. So he decides to go across the street the next morning and talk with his mother about it. And of course, first thing Marie jumps to the thing that he's over there because of his whole feeling sorry for himself, that he must be sick, jumping down on him. And nice little scene that definitely shows how Marie tends to overreact and make a mountain out of a molehill, a very small molehill. And Ray finally gets her to come down, like, this is how I always look. She asks where Robert is. She tells him Robert's on a date. She starts to overreact again. He's like, this is why they didn't come here to eat. Number one when it comes to Marie and how she views Amy. Of course, here she hasn't even met her yet, so it's just her engaging with the concept of her son having a date. Ray does eventually bring out his dilemma to both his parents, tell them, Robert attractive? He's like, oh yeah, he's always been classically handsome, which is where that phrase come in. Where Ray's like, classically handsome? It's like, yeah, he's classically handsome and you're adorable. It's like, you're both good looking in different ways, whereas Robert's more like, say, Valentino, and of course, with Ray bringing it up with the way that she words it for him, it's like, so he's Valentino and I'm Fievel. That's just, they're both good looking, just different. One's more the one like you'd see on a movie poster or in a magazine trying to sell you a product. And Ray is like the one who's like, oh, he looks good, but you wouldn't see him in advertisements. I don't know if that's partially due to Ray's nose, but I could see him doing certain type of advertisements, but it's like different levels. And of course, based on something that Marie says later, you could kind of take that with a little bit of a grain of salt, because it looks like they're just trying to build up the sons differently. And it also seems like they're building up one when that one's not there, and then doing it in a way that kind of kills the self-esteem of the other. At least that's what it comes out with when they start building up Ray when Robert comes in. You can definitely see why Robert is jealous at times, because he lives in the house, so he has to hear that constantly, where it's the parent, mostly Maria, looks like, beating the dead Ray's so awesome horse. Of course, when Robert first comes in, you could tell right off the bat, just from the way that Brad Garrett plays it, that Robert had an excellent time on his date. They went to dinner, they saw the sunrise, and even shared a clip on the shooting range. That's the only time they ever mentioned that ever occurring on any of their dates, but that's a nice date. Go out there, you definitely tell from that Amy knows how to handle herself. I can imagine her going, freeze, dirtbag! And this is the most excited we've seen the Robert character the entire show, which is the first of many moments we're going to see him on Cloud 9 like this. And it's the first breakout moment, performance-wise, for Brad Garrett in the show. I mean, he's had other good moments, but this is the first breakout one where you can definitely see there's more to the character of Robert than just the older brother who's jealous of the success of his younger brother, who also happens to be a cop. Some more character development. Of course, following Robert's successful date, we get to see more from Ray's little self-conscious story arc, where he comes home from a trip out with a fake tan and his hair slicked back and he has a bag in hand. And the way that Patricia Heaton sells this when she turns and sees Ray, where she goes from shock to it's like, and just the way it always gets me to smile. And the way she puts it is like, I say one thing about your brother and you turn into George Hamilton. And it's a very noticeable tan. I mean, Ray Romano already has an olive complexion that's like 1 to 1.5% tanner than my complexion, even accounting for the light. But it's still noticeable. It'd probably be more noticeable on me if I had a full tan like that, because of my slightly lighter complexion on me. It'd probably look more like how my complexion was when I was a baby. Which, in case anyone's wondering, in those photos, you could definitely tell my native blood now. It's only in spurts, like I'm standing next to my uncles. Or if you compare photos or whatnot, other than, the obvious my height and all that, but it's very noticeable tan. Just the fact that he decided to go, okay, he can't do anything about the height, so he's going to go for the dark part with a tan, slick back his hair, and he got a lot of beauty products. And just seeing Patricia react in character, she pulls him out, hair conditioner, okay, that's a hair mousse. After this, volumizer, which I don't even know what that's for, and then clarifying lotion. He really went up and beyond. And a nice little touching moment between Ray and Debra when Debra says, just because Robert's handsome does not mean that I'm attracted to him. Which is the thing I mentioned about marriage earlier, is that where is the line of being able to say that a family member or in-law family member is attractive without it being weird? You know, regardless of genders and all that, whether it's brother-in-law giving compliments, sister-in-law, sister-in-law giving compliments, brother-in-law, doesn't matter. Where's that line in the sand drawn? And it's going to depend on the individual family and all that. I think that Debra did not approach the line, but I don't think she crossed over the line. I think Ray here is really taking it out of context, which, of course, is the thing for the Barone family. A lot of them will take things out of context, or, in the case of Marie, especially in the later episodes, get iffy over nothing when she did not read the context. It's situational awareness. Of course, that's one thing in my line of work you definitely got to know, situational awareness. Of course, I can definitely tell you, working in my line of work, not a lot of people have it. It's just like common sense. Not so common. And with this, it seems Ray just wanted to make a mountain out of a molehill with this. But it does raise that question and get you thinking, like, where's that line? And, of course, they have a touching moment and they dance. Now, the epilogue scene, I don't remember if they cut this out of syndication, but this is one of those epilogue scenes that, while it has a nice little moment, definitely could be cut out without killing the episode, because that little dance moment definitely feels like it'd be an episode ender. It's a nice little moment between the Barone brothers that transfers into a moment with their dad. Now, they're talking about the different products and all that, like what works for what. Then Frank walks in. Normally, you would expect Frank to make like a one-line comment and walk off, berating the brothers for using that crap, as he would put it. But instead, he asks them, "You guys got anything for flaky skin?" They confer, and then they tell him something. So, nice little bonding moment between the Barone boys, all three of them. And it ends the episode on a happy note. All in all, Who's Handsome is a pretty fun episode. Has a very sitcom-y main plot with Ray and Debra, but works for their characters and ends with a touching moment. It's nice that we finally get to see the introduction of Amy and some nice little character development with Robert. It would have been nice to see part of the date instead of just hear it talked about, but there's still plenty of episodes and we'll still got more. And of course the character arc with Amy and her relationship with Robert is going to go for a lot of seasons after this point, which, as you're probably going to see when we get to more Robert and Amy episodes, I think they really did drag it off way too long. I don't know whose idea that was. I know with comedy you gotta have friction, but with some of these it's like, really? You're dragging it off that long? Their marriage should have been season 5 at the latest, I feel. But they dragged it off to season 7 and it was the season ender. But I'll talk more about that later. And of course, next, if I'm remembering my order right, is a very interesting episode. Ring finger.